Oh man, my journey of faith. So I'll go back even some more. It's later on in my childhood, some of the circumstances that led up to it. This can kind of also be a part of, still childhood going into my teenage years. When I was about 13, I remember telling a couple of my friends in the neighborhood, I was contemplating, growing up in poverty. Even at a young age, in middle school, you notice that you don't have that much and there's other people that have more than you. And, growing up, a few outfits, or we may have two sets of bottoms and a few tops. And one day on Tuesday, I may wear these pants or these shorts. So coming around the next week, I can't wear it on the same day, and I'm switching it up, put this shirt on with it and different things like that. I just remember being frustrated at an early age at not having much. And then one of the things I learned from my mom and my dad, even, it was interesting because I watched my mom work 2 or 3 jobs all the time, and I watched my dad even work a lot as well. But they always did stuff for other people. They always did things for family members. And I remember times where my mom had been trying to save money because she's working multiple jobs, and she had talked about buying us something, and somebody would call, a family member or a friend would call my mom, and they would need something, whether it was to help pay this bill or to help do this so they wouldn't get put out, or to help with whatever it was. And my mom, that money that she had saved and promised to buy me and my brother something, she would give it out away. And I remember me and my brother, we would be frustrated. We would be mad. And I just remember this life-changing decision that I made. I decided, I had contemplated it for a while, and I knew people in the neighborhood that were selling drugs. And I just remember I just kept wrestling with it. And I told one of my good friends, one of my partners, I told him, I said, I've been trying to save a little money here and there, change everything. And I say, I'm almost to the point. I said, I'm finna get ready to buy me some crack, and I'm finna get ready to buy me some weed. And I told this to 2 of my friends, and they were, I don't even remember exactly what their reactions was, but they knew that I was serious when I said it. And so long story short, at the age of 13, I remember I bought me a pack, which was like either 5 or 10 rocks. And then I bought me an ounce of weed. And at this time, this is around 93, going into 94. A lot of people were, at least here in Texas, a lot of people were still smoking joints. I think some people had just started really smoking blunts, but it was a lot of people smoking joints at the time. And so I just remember getting this ounce of weed, and I rolled up a whole bunch of joints. I was not the best roller. I smoked a little weed at the time, but actually rolling them on a regular and all of that was something that was new to me. So I remember just rolling up a bunch of joints, and I had the crack, and I just was in the neighborhood, and I just started letting people in the neighborhood know, like friends, girls. I started letting people know I had it. And then fast forward, the next thing you know, going into my freshman year. So when I got started, I was in 8th grade. And as we get into my freshman year in high school, now a lot of people are already knowing that I have the weed, and a lot of people didn't know that I was selling crack at the time. And it just kind of just kept building from there. All through high school, because I'm up late at night, when I do go to class, it's just like, man, I'm either going to sleep or I don't really care what this teacher is talking about. So I would just get up and just walk up out of the classroom, or I would be in there going to sleep, or I would have my backpack and I would have weed and pills in my backpack. and people would just come through different classes to see where I was, and they would be at the door saying, "Hey, Jay, come on outside." And I just remember, you know, when I was trying to play basketball, I would try to limit leaving up out of classroom because schoolwork was never hard for me. And so I knew that even if I got behind, I could grab all my homework and grab other assignments and I could make it up like it wasn't nothing. And so that's where I was. I was trying to play basketball, and then when for whatever reason this one coach did not want to let me play, and he used the excuse of, "Well, why come you didn't play in middle school? 'Cause I've never heard of you." And so he told me, "Get out of my gym," you know, after he had just pulled me off to the sides doing tryouts, and I hit like 5 or 6 3-pointers in a row, and he was just like, where did you come from?" And I was like, "Well, I went to Pierce." He was like, "I've never heard of you." I said, "Well, I didn't play there because I was behind on my grades, so I would get caught up." And, you know, I just told him straight up I was in trouble a lot. And he was like, "Well, if you didn't play in middle school, you can't play here." And I was like, when did they make up a rule like that? And I really didn't have somebody really like staying on these coaches and the teachers, because my mom, she's working all these jobs and my dad is working. And so I'm just trying to play. And then when you tell me that I can't play, you tell me to get out your gym. I'm just like, okay, I'm already doing this other thing, so I'm going to go all in. So fast forward through high school, selling drugs, skipping, getting kicked out of school. There were multiple semesters where I would get kicked out of 2 or 3 classes, and they would put me in ISS for the rest of the year. I would go in there, do a few assignments, some little easy paperwork just for you to not bother who was running ISS at the time. And I would actually get caught up in my classes because I would get kicked out of class or get kicked out of school and be at one of the alternative schools and come back. And now I'm in the same grade as you and I ain't done no work. So all through high school, I was still doing that. And then going into my early 20s, I was still doing the exact same thing. And there's so much that comes with that lifestyle. I don't think a lot of people understand it. You know, when you're young and you're trying to live like an adult, and because my mom was doing the best she could as a single parent and working all the time, you know, it got to the point where I remember my mom telling me one day, "What are you doing?" And I'm skipping. And when I'm coming back in, they're like, "Man, your mom is here." And I'm like, she's like, "I can't keep taking off of work, becoming here because your school is calling me and all of these things." And, you know, it got to the point to where I was just like, man, I'm done. I'm not going to the alternative place you told me to go. I'm not going to ISS. I told them I'm just done with school, period. And I remember just walking out of the meeting. It was a assistant principal, my mom, and I just left up out of there. And I pretty much still came on the campus and ran from the hall monitors and ran from the campus police, but, you know, still was at school, and my house was in the neighborhood where the school was, so I just did that. Eventually, when I was 19, I ended up going ahead and get my GED. So I got my GED. And after I got my GED, I was still in the streets. It really didn't matter. If I did get a job here and there, what usually happened was I would be at a job and like people are calling my phone and I'm missing money. And so it would be like, forget this job. I ain't going in today. I would call in, or I'm getting into arguments with my coworkers, and even getting into it with some of the management. And so I'm getting fired from this job. You know, all of these different things are going on. I'm in the streets. You know, and everything that comes with that. If you've been there or if you know people in there, there's a lot that comes with it. There are guns that you got to have at a young age that protects your stuff. and depending on what you partake in, you doing all kind of other things. Like you jacking and robbing. You're worried about those that are jacking and robbing. You're worried about the police. This person telling on you. And I'm having to change phone numbers over and over, but just a whole lot. So fast forward, this one particular time I was actually on the run, and my son's mom at the time was pregnant with him, and I'm just like, man. So get a lawyer, because the other lawyer I had before that kind of messed me around. And so that's the reason why I went on a run. And I had been on a run about almost 2 years. And so my son finna be born. I'm like, man, I need to take care of this case. So get a new lawyer. We get the warrant lifted and get a new court date and all of these different things. And I ended up, long story short, accepting probation. So during this time, I had got a job, but I'm still hustling. And my son is born, and really too much hadn't changed. I stopped smoking weed because I was having to take a test every month. And I remember the first time I came up dirty, she was like, hey, you came up dirty. And I said, of course I came up dirty. I said, I've been on the run for 2 years. Of course, I smoke weed every day. I told my probation officer, I told her straight up, I said, I was the weed man. Of course, I smoke weed every day. So of course I'm dirty. And she told me straight up, she said, I'm gonna give you 60 days to get clean. If you come back, you're going to prison. And she just told me like that. So I stopped smoking weed, but I'm also the pedo man, so I continue to pop X pills. I continue to do other things, and so eventually I catch another case. For the sake of time, I'm not going to go into all of that detail about that night, but I end up getting pulled over, and I go to jail. And I remember, I'm like, man, I'm on probation. And I'm like, I got to hurry up and get up out of here, because if I don't hurry up and get up out of here, they're going to put a probation hold on me, and I'm not going to be able to get out. So eventually I get out on bond as quick as possible, and I come up with this story. I tell my probation officer, hey, I gave somebody a ride. They left something in my car. And she was like, well, if you get a lawyer, you shouldn't have nothing to worry about. They shouldn't violate you. I said, okay. And I said, well, I got a lawyer. We're just waiting. And she was like, well, just don't come see me until I call you. She said, because I'm looking at the system, and they haven't put a hold on you yet. And so during this time, I'm cautious because I know people have told on me. I know a couple of who those individuals was at the time. And I'm trying to figure out who else, because I know it wasn't just those two individuals. And so I'm cautious, but I have to make money because I got to pay my lawyer. I got rent, all of these different things. And long story short, they put the probation hold on me, and I really wanted to just run, but I couldn't because I have my son, and this was a lot going on at the time, and something was telling me, don't run. I'm in a sense at war in the streets with the opposite gang that's saying that they're going to kill me on sight. So I got to ride with weapons, and I typically roll with an assault rifle and at least one pistol with extra ammunition and all of that. And so I'm at war on this side. I got beef. I'm running up on people for accusing them of telling on me. It's just a whole lot of nonsense, but I was just exhausted. I was tired. So when they actually came looking for me and they were getting ready to kick in the door, I just said, forget it. Came outside, probably had about $3,500 or something like that on me. Took it, went to jail, never got out because the judge refused to give me a bond this time. And so I'm in there, and I remember like after a day or so, I was just like, Lord, I am tired. I'm just exhausted. And it's interesting that the Lord only says this one simple thing: read my word. And I knew at that moment that I had to get a Bible. I don't know how I knew that, but I just knew I needed to get one. And I remember my cellie, so I'm in the county jail at this time. I remember my cellie, he would have these other books up there. I don't know how long he had been in there at this time, but he had all these books up there. And I saw him reading the Bible here and there, but it was like he was scared to talk to me because I was just angry. And you know, he really didn't say nothing. So I just asked him, I said, look, I need a Bible. And he told me this. He said, I'll be right back. He went and got a form from the guard station. Came back. He filled it all out for me. He said, sign it right here. And he said, in about 3 days or a week at the longest, you'll have a Bible. He turned it in, came back. He said, now look, any of these books up here you see, even the Bible, he said, if I'm not reading them, you don't even have to ask me. If I'm asleep, you don't have to ask me. Just grab it and just start reading. So I'm still on my my hustling schedule where I'm just up all night long until the sun come up. So I'm for hours every day, I'm reading the Bible over and just reading it. And after about like a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks at the longest, I had read through the entire Bible. So it's reading, reflecting, I'm talking to God, I'm doing push-ups, I'm doing crunches, and I'm just up. Other people I know that their cell is across, you know, we standing at the entryway just talking to each other for a little bit, then they go to sleep, I'm still up. And I began to see that there were certain things that I had been participating in that I couldn't do no more. I just knew it, just reading the word. There wasn't the preacher beating me over the head with the Bible, because I hear so many people say that, but just the word by itself was convicting me. And so as I was just reading the word, I knew there were certain things that I couldn't do no more, and I knew I couldn't go back to that lifestyle. And so I wrestled for about a month. I remember just wrestling, and the enemy is in my head telling me, are you sure you want to go and do that? And that's over and over. That's what I'm thinking about. What are people going to think? So there were questions that are just running through my mind. And I'm going to talk about this in a book that I'm working on. And even I'll have it in some of my teaching, but it's these questions. And then I remember after a while, I just remember saying, Lord, whatever happens, if I get out and beat this case, I'm serving you the rest of my life. If I end up having to go to prison, I'm just going to serve you in there the best I can. If the feds come, because that was one of the things I'm worried about, because I also got a weapons charge on top of the drugs that I have. And I'm thinking, and, you know, even my lawyer, he was like, I don't even know why the feds hadn't put a hold on you yet. And so at this time, I'm just like, man, I just said, Lord, whatever happens, I'm serving you from now on. Long story short, feds never put a hold on me. We have a motion to suppress the evidence hearing. They said they had all of these witnesses, recordings and videotape of me, and people are ready to talk. Nobody shows up. It's just the officer that pulled me over, and he had done so many illegal things during that time of pulling me over and all of this illegal search and seizure. And so into that, my lawyer and the DA are getting into it. My lawyer is telling him, I can't believe, he's telling them, because it was two people from the DA's office there, can't believe y'all had this clown up here, he's lying and this and that. So the judge said, I need some time to consider what I'm going to do. Go back a couple of weeks, few weeks, I don't remember exactly how long it was, come back before the judge, and he said, look, I know the officer was lying, but he said, you had so much stuff in the car. He said, I'm not ruling for you and I'm not ruling against you. And my lawyer was like, what is this? I'm confused too. I'm like, how you going to just say, you know, he has done something wrong, but you're not going to rule for me or against me. And so They said they're gonna probably come to you with an offer, or you can go to trial. So still thinking about this situation with the feds, I asked my lawyer, I said, hey, because I'm already planning to take the gun charge, just pleading guilty to that so that I don't have to worry about that. I said, if I do decide to go to trial, and, you know, can the feds come in the middle of while we're doing that? He said, yes. And I said, well, tell them I'm taking the gun charge. And he said, okay. He said, but let me see what I can get you. Long story short, they offered me 3 years running things concurrent. I take the 3. So I end up going to prison, to TDC here in Texas. I do about 16 months, about almost half of that 3-year sentence. I get out. I was living it out in there, and I got a chance to see how God moves, even in an environment, in a setting like that. I continue to stay in my word. Whatever unit I was on, I was only at 3 different places, and 2 or 3 different places after I went through diagnostics and got my number down at the Holiday unit in Houston. But I went to Beaumont for a little bit, and then I went up towards the Dallas and Fort Worth area before I got out. And it was just amazing how I got a chance to see God work. But then I get out, and now I got other challenges that are before me. And part of what that looks like is, hey, you got these felonies on your record, because I had other charges before I caught this. I was on probation, so I got a few felonies, and I have some misdemeanors, and I don't have a real good job history because I've got fired from so many jobs, or wasn't there long enough to even actually add this to my resume. But I had some people help me put together a somewhat decent resume. Nobody would hire me. They kept telling me that it's our policy not to hire people with felonies. And so I would take a job here for 2 or 3 days through this temp agency. Hey, we got another one for a week. Are you willing to do that? I said, yes, do that. And really, to tell you the truth, in all honesty, for about a year, when I got out, about that first year, majority of my money came from either doing little 1 or 2 day jobs, maybe a week, but majority of it came from me being an extra in whether it was a commercial, when they were filming Friday Night Lights here, and I think I know at least 1 or 2 movies as well as an extra. Not a lot of money, but I took it. And then eventually the Lord blessed me to be able to get a job, not paying much, $8, $9 an hour here and there. And I had to work my way up.